What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Beebs Gaming here. Today's video is going to be my personal college football preseason top 10. And when I say my personal top 10, I don't mean the coaches poll or the AP poll. Now, I know my opinion is probably going to be controversial compared to some of your guys' opinion. So I'm going to lay out who I think the 10 best schools reflecting last season and potentially this season are in college football for me this year. Now, if you don't agree with it, I don't blame you. This is my personal opinion. I'm sure everybody has their own opinion, so let's roll in and we'll start with number 10. Starting off with number 10 is the Ole Miss Rebels. Ole Miss is interesting to me because last year they went 10-3, but they were also led by one of their best quarterbacks in school history in Matt Corral. So I think what will determine Ole Miss's season is what happens at quarterback this year. Do you roll with Jackson Dart, who last year at USC threw for 1,300 yards with 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions? Or do you roll with the career backup at Ole Miss, Luke Altmaier, who only threw for 192 yards last year and had 2 interceptions and 1 touchdown? So I think Ole Miss this year, they're at number 10 for me, but I think they may have a good year depending on quarterback play. They may have a very, very, very bad year depending on quarterback play. So that's number 10 for me. Coming in at number 9, I have the Oklahoma State Cowboys. I mean, let's face it, last year Oklahoma State was one Big 12 championship win away against Baylor from going to the college football playoff. So they were right there, and they're going to be right there again because they have Spencer Sanders back going into his senior year now. Last year he threw for 2,800 yards, ran for 668 yards, and had 26 total touchdowns compared to only 12 interceptions. I think Oklahoma State has a potential to be, once again, Big 12's best team. I think Oklahoma has a chance, but I think Oklahoma State will be the Big 12's best chance to go into the college football playoff. And I think with Spencer Sanders coming back, I think they definitely give themselves a chance. Coming in at number 8, I have the Michigan State Spartans. Oh, how it pains me to say, but last year Michigan State was really, really good. I'm a Michigan fan, so it really hurt watching Kenneth Walker run all over us. I mean, he looked like a Heisman finalist after that game. But Michigan State had a really good year last year, a surprising year, just like Michigan. They won 11-2 last year, and they were led by Kenneth Walker. So the big question for Michigan State is, who replaces Kenneth Walker? It looks like it's going to be redshirt junior Jarek Broussard, but I think Michigan State shouldn't worry because they have Peyton Thornback and Jaden Reed, who are both going to be leaders on this team. I think Michigan State is the 8th best team coming into 2022, 2023. Look out for them to have a big year, and that's number 8. Coming in at number 7, I have the Baylor Bears. Last year, Baylor gave me the most exciting game of the season in the Big 12 championship against Oklahoma State. I think Baylor has potential to have another good year. Last year, they went 12-2. Their offensive line will return 4 out of 5 starters. The one question is how does Blake Shapen handle being the starting quarterback after just being a backup his whole career and not getting much playing time? Now, I will say Baylor's defense is looking really good, and pardon me if I mispronounce the name, but Siaki Ika looks to be a beast. Last year had 3.5 sacks, 6 tackles for loss. I think Baylor has a chance, but they can be really good. I don't think they'll be the best team in the Big 12, but based on what they did last year, I'm going to put them here at number 7. I think they could have a pretty decent year. Coming in at number 6, I have the Cincinnati Bearcats. I mean, let's be honest. I don't know how you can't put Cincinnati in the top 10 after the year that they had last year. Yeah, they lost in the college football playoff, but they honestly hung with Alabama, and they gave Alabama a run for their money. Obviously Alabama, they were never in question of losing that game, but Cincinnati played well. I think the biggest thing with Cincinnati is how do you come back from losing Desmond Ridder, who, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he leads all passing records at Cincinnati Bearcats, in school history. So it's going to be interesting. The battle is between Evan Prater and Ben Bryant. Ben Bryant went from Cincinnati, transferred now back to Cincinnati. Evan Prater has been the backup. It should be interesting. I don't think either of those guys will be able to fill in the shoes of Desmond Ridder, though. And then it's also interesting when you lose Sauce Gardner and Kobe Bryant, 2 of the best defensive backs your university has ever seen. I mean, who is going to step up at Cincinnati and really going to make this team theirs? I mean, who is going to give Cincinnati the chance to repeat and go back to the college football playoff? Last year was fun, but can they keep it up? Or are we going to see another UCF and then they end up falling off? It'll be interesting, but I just don't really buy into the hype right this second. Coming in at number 5 is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. There are a lot of questions surrounding Notre Dame. The biggest one for me is Brian Kelly being gone, going to LSU. how does Marcus Freeman do as the head coach here? Notre Dame went 11-2 last year, but they lost some guys, and one of them is Kyron Williams, who was recently one of the better Notre Dame running backs that we've seen, but it's going to be a battle between Logan Diggs and Chris Tyree this year to take over that running back number 1 spot. And then you also got to look at Notre Dame's secondary. Last year, they were not that good. They finished 64th, and they're not going to be any better losing Kyle Hamilton. So Notre Dame's going to have a huge challenge. How does Marcus Freeman take this team, try to do what Brian Kelly could do, but get over that hump of not being able to win a national championship? Notre Dame is going to have a real strong shot, but it's all going to depend on Marcus Freeman and how he can do as the head coach next year. It's going to be interesting, but I got Notre Dame at number 5. Coming at number 4, we have what could possibly be the most explosive team going into next year. I don't want to admit it, but Ohio State is going to be really, really good. They got C.J. Stroud, who I'm predicting is going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. They got Jackson Smith and Jigba, who is going to go lights out. He may be the number 1 receiver picked in the draft. And then you also got Travion Henderson at running back. The defense is going to have to get better, though, because last year we saw what Michigan's running attack could do, Oregon's running attack. What they did to Ohio State last year is really what stopped Ohio State. Even Utah had ran the ball pretty well in the Rose Bowl game. So Ohio State's going to have to stop the run better in order for them to be a national championship winning team, but they're going to be really good. I can't wait for the showdowns this year against Notre Dame and against Michigan. It's going to be a fun team to watch at Ohio State. I got to go against them, but they're my number 4 team. They're going to be really, really good and very electrifying. I got Ohio State at number 4. Coming at number 3, we have my Michigan Wolverines. Man, am I excited. Another year of Michigan football. Last year, finally, Jim Harbaugh, first time beating Ohio State. It was very, very, very important that he did that last year. If not, he more than likely would have been fired. It's going to be interesting, though, because Michigan's going to have a quarter battle coming in to this next season. You're going to have a battle between J.J. McCarthy and Cade McNamara. I think last year both did things very, very well, and I think that it's going to be a healthy competition. Another thing that I'm excited for is to get Ronnie Bell back. Last year, in week 1, he looked like he could be one of the best receivers in football before he got injured. It's going to be very fun having him back. Who I'm really excited about, though, is Blake Corum. I think potentially, this may be a hot take, but I think potentially Blake Corum could be the number 1 running back in college football this year. Not to mention you have Donovan Edwards at the backup position. This Michigan team is going to be fun. My questions are for sure. How are we going to replace our edge rushers in Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo? Those 2 guys were very, very good. I've been reading up on Mozzie Smith, and apparently he is a freak, and he's going to go off this year, and I really hope he does. But Michigan, they have some questions, but I think that they have a good team, and for the most part brought back a lot of key pieces from last year's team. So I think Michigan has a good chance to repeat what they did last year, and I hope that they repeat what they did last year. But it's going to be a fun year to be a Michigan fan, a good bounce-back year, and we'll see. Can we beat Ohio State twice in a row? Man, that would be amazing. But I got Michigan at number 3. Coming in at number 2, we have the Alabama Crimson Tide. I don't think you can go against them. Last year, I thought they would win the national championship. Georgia proved everybody wrong. But I think Alabama is going to have another great year. I mean, you can look at what Nick Saban does every single year. I mean, you cannot count Alabama out. They're going to go to the college football playoff every year. I mean, unless something crazy happens. They have 2 of the best college football players in college football. I think probably the top 2, and Will Anderson and Bryce Young. I mean, these 2 dudes are going to both be top 5 draft picks as well. I mean, Alabama is too good. Nick Saban continues to show why he's going to go down as probably the best college football coach of all time. It's going to be ridiculous. Last year they went 13-2. Alabama is going to be really good. I see a lot of hype around Texas A&M, and Nick Saban shut that down. I mean, they paid for a lot of guys. Nick Saban said, we didn't pay for anybody. Alabama's out there recruiting, doing their thing every single year. Alabama, to me, are going to be the national championship favorites, in my personal opinion. Once you look at the college football playoff here at the end of the season, they're going to be the team that's in there. It's almost guaranteed every single season. I got Alabama at number 2. And finally, coming in at number 1, you guessed it, the Georgia Bulldogs, the defending national champs. They went 14-1 last year. I mean, they're going to be really good again. I mean, Stetson Bennett, he's a funny quarterback to me because he gets the job done. He's not flashy, and that's why people really don't hear about him much. I mean, obviously, with him being Georgia's quarterback, you're going to hear about him. But he's not flashy, but he gets the job done. He don't make mistakes. They're going to be really good. They're going to have Brock Bowers back next year. He was a freshman last year and had 56 catches for 882 yards with 13 touchdowns. I mean, Georgia's lost its running backs, but does Georgia ever really lose running backs? I mean, they rebound, they get retool. The same thing with the defense. The defense lost some players, a lot of players that were first round picks, but I mean, Georgia always replaces these guys with just as equal, just as good of talent. I mean, Georgia is another team that, to be honest, the way I think about it, I don't honestly know how you can go against Georgia as well. Georgia and Alabama are going to battle every single year, especially if they're not playing each other every single year in the regular season. If they're just playing each other in the SEC championship, if they can get in that game with one loss or undefeated, if they lose that game, even if they lose that game, more than likely they'll go to the college football playoff. I mean, these are the two best teams in college football, and every single year you can see because they just separate themselves. Georgia, 14-1 last year. I look for them to probably do about just the exact same. They're going to be really good. But heading into this 2022-2023 college football season, I have the Georgia Bulldogs as the number 1 team in college football. Alright, that's going to cap off this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys aren't too upset with my personal opinions. Like I said, I don't want to go off of what I think teams can do and what they did in recruiting. I want to go off of based on what teams did last year. And because I think teams should be given the benefit of the doubt. If they had a good year last year, they shouldn't be ranked outside of the top 10 like Cincinnati was. Until Cincinnati proves that they're not top 10 worthy, then they're going to stay in the top 10. If they're winning games, they're going to stay in the top 10. But my plan is after every week of football, my plan is to come back through and give my top 10 again, but make it really quick, just go over what they did in the past game and do that for the entire season. I mean, college football is my favorite. I'm an NFL guy as well, but there's a lot that goes on in the NFL, and for me to try and cover every single game, it would be really hard, and every single team would be really hard. So I want to do something around the NFL, but it may just be Pittsburgh Steelers related. But like I was saying, I'm a big college football guy. I'm excited for this season, and I'm excited to cover what goes on this college football season. I'm hoping for a exciting season, but that's going to do it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next video, and that's about it. See ya.